Guys, typically beautiful piece of New Zealand scenery. Geez, this country really is like the Elysian Fields. I've said this before, do not recommend to live. 2 out of 10 would not recommend. To visit, 12 out of 10 would recommend to everyone. If there's a more beautiful country on earth, I haven't seen it yet. I did meet a really nice Chilean girl at my hostel in Wellington who was saying that Chile and Patagonia is more beautiful than New Zealand and the south of Chile. And apparently, if it's not better, it's just as good. But I have to see it for myself to make that determination. But like you see photographs of the like the province of Araucania and the one south from there in Chile, and I'm like, wow, it looks could be first equal. But I'm honestly not sure if it's better, and really I'm not sure if there's any more beautiful country in the world, and that's kind of consensus opinion. So anyway, it's just a stunning place, right? So beautiful scenery for a not very beautiful dream. For reasons I've mentioned previously, I cannot be very specific in my wording. I have to be careful with my wording. And I also can't speak about the dream in full at this time. Refer to the previous video for a little bit more detail on that. But I had this dream last night. So today is Good Friday. It's the afternoon of Friday the 29th of March 2024. So I had this dream early in the morning, at night, night through from Thursday the 28th of March 2024 through to the morning of Friday the 29th of March 2024, last night. And very significant. Yeah, as again, for reasons I've previously discussed, I cannot speak as to whether the stream was prophetic or not, or whether I believe it was. I have to just say, this was the dream, this is what I got shown. I can't give you all the detail, but I can give you the gist. And man, it was pretty dramatic, and well, I'll give you it. So I was shown a scene in World War III, in the conflict that's currently happening in Ukraine. And the main scene in the dream, I saw a Russian, I think it was an Ilyushin. I'll put a link in the description box below to the type of aircraft that I'm referring to. It's a large Russian military aircraft used for troop transportation. I don't know if they carry tactical nukes. That's just what I got shown. I don't quite understand all the symbolism, but I got shown this thing coming in like this low, like it was doing a bombing run and then coming up. And then I was shown this Russian aircraft dropping a tactical nuclear weapon, and they dropped it on NATO troops. And I was specifically shown German NATO troops, and they killed over 500. The number I was given was something like 537. It was a specific number. To be clear, yeah, I'm not sure if... Yeah, alright, I have to be careful with my wording. I'm just putting this out here now. I can't say or speculate as to an interpretation of that at this time. Perhaps I can do that. I'll look at doing that in the future. I just need to get this out here now. And then I turned to a friend in the dream and I said to them, this is it. This is nuclear war. This is the first time that any country or side in this war has used nuclear weapons. And yeah, I was shown in the dream, just not saying it means anything. I do actually think it means something, but I can't speak about that right now. But yeah, it was the first use of any kind of nuclear weapon in this conflict, and it's just what I was shown. It was Russia using tactical nuclear weapons against NATO troops. I didn't get shown which country it was. I had the feeling it was Ukraine, though. I had the feeling it was Ukraine. And I had the feeling that other troops had been deployed there Troops from other NATO countries. Yeah. And I will add, I recently had a dream, and it was a similar kind of theme, and I was showing Dutch troops just getting slaughtered, absolutely crushed and slaughtered. It was like a mince maker, but for Dutch humans, for Dutch men, and they were just, I could just feel this rage in the dream. And then, yeah, it was, I'll talk about that in the future. I had some feelings about wanting, I stopped feeling neutral, and I started wanting to pick a side, and I started wanting to support our side. I started feeling really, really, really angry and towards the Russians. Because I have some Dutch friends. I find Dutch people are pretty high quality of character as nationalities go in general, and just so I'm like half. I'm more like 75% Spanish, really. I'd only say about 25% Kiwi. So I'm both Anglo-Saxon and European. But I've talked about this in the past. The Anglo-Zionist Empire, the United States, in descending order of population, the United States, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Oh, right, I mean, Israel's its own separate thing. I don't like the societies at this time because they're so sick. I mean, there are still lots of good people here, but this is too much arrogance and pride and hubris and narcissism and cruelty and brutality. It's the sickness of empire. And but Europeans aren't like that. Most Eastern Europeans and Western Europeans, they're a lot more mature. They have a lot more equanimity. If there's a conflict, they try to talk it out. They don't just call you CUNT and then punch you in the face, which is what a lot of New Zealanders will do. They just instantly attack. They don't know how to deal with conflict or feeling uncomfortable. They can't sit with the discomfort and try to have a civilized discussion and do peace talks. They just instantly attack, and they shut their hearts down, so they're extremely brutal when they do that. New Zealanders are the worst of the group by far. Americans are relatively mild in comparison, honestly, and that's saying a lot because the US is very, very toxic right now. But yeah, like, it's sad because if hypothetically things, like if World War III, I have to be careful with my wording here, is to happen. I mean, putting dreams aside, I think it's clear we're moving into World War III now. And if all our, the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, UK, Israel got invaded, I kind of feel neutral about it because there's not much here worth protecting in many ways. The societies are so corrupt. It really needs to be just burned down so we can start again. And it's the end of the world. It's not. It's from one perspective, it's actually the end of a world. But it's not the end of the Earth, so the Earth's going to be okay. The Earth will be fine, nature will recover. But the civilization is just so corrupted, it's like Babylon. It just needs to it's bringing about its own destruction. And, blah. The great tragedy here is that Europe's being dragged into this conflict by the US because, as I think it was a German diplomat, with Josep Borrell, he recently said, the US wants to maintain its position as the world's hegemon, as the global superpower, and they don't care. They'll fight to the last Ukrainian. They'll drag all of Europe and all their allies in just to preserve their position. So I feel like the Anglo-Saxon countries, I wouldn't say they deserve it. I would say, what do you expect? But it's sad that Europe's going to get dragged into this because they've been through this crap with World Wars I and II twice before, and I mean I get good energy from most Europeans. I don't feel like they deserve this. Or, like you can say, what do you expect to them? Like, they're just getting dragged into it because they're vassal states of the Anglo-Zionist Empire. And, Israel, forget it. They're worse than Israel's worse than the Nazis right now. The Zionist Jews. And most Jews support what's happening in Gaza, so Israel's going to fry like a radioactive potato chip quite soon. And they've sealed their fate. So, and it's the geopolitical international relations equivalent of suicide by cop. They went around and just brutally murdered a whole bunch of people in their neighborhood, and then the cops are going to show up and they're just going to, their karma's going to be biblical. And I'll save that for the future, but there was another part of the dream. This was really, really gruesome, the symbolism. I will say for now, I got shown two friends of mine, and I got shown a Russian, and he had a knife, and he attacked these two friends of mine, and he was stabbing them in the face, but he was coring pieces of their face out like he was carving cheese. It was just absolutely horrific, but it wasn't, I'm hoping it wasn't literal. It was symbolic of a spirit of kind of mass psychopathy among Russian troops in the war, and the associated brutality which they're going to mete out to the troops and civilians of allied countries. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's what I don't know. Okay, for technical reasons, for various reasons I have to say, I think that's what it could be saying. I don't know. I can't say what I really think. I have to say I don't know if that was prophetic or not. Wink, wink. Yeah, that's what I got shown. And yeah, so I mentioned that other dream I had recently where about Dutch soldiers being completely slaughtered and crushed by the Russians. So, people have been... Okay, just have to be careful thinking about my wording here again. Leave aside dreams for a moment. Yeah, if you ignore dreams completely and just look at the geopolitics of where this is going and all the things the politicians are saying, the Russians are talking about how there's a hard red line for the delivery of F-16s to Ukraine, and NATO is talking about how they're going to be delivering 160 F-16s to Ukraine in May. And Russia said, well, yeah, these F-16 fighter jets can carry nuclear weapons, and you're putting them right on our borders. So any airfield that supports F-16 fighter jets is a legitimate target. Apparently Ukraine doesn't really have the infrastructure or the skilled technicians to maintain those aircraft, so they're probably going to be basing some of them from countries like Poland and Romania. I suspect what's going to happen, yeah, again, this isn't about dreams, this is just me speculating on what's going to happen next based on the news and the trajectory of what the politicians are saying, that, yeah, like they've said, NATO has said, yep, there's 160 F-16s going to Ukraine in May. Russia's said it's a hard red line, and they've issued their warnings. I think probably what's going to happen is when they start going into action, Russia will target airfields in Poland and NATO countries like Romania with airstrikes, and they'll probably use hypersonic missiles as well, because those are very expensive, but they're really good at hitting high value targets because they're so fast they can't even, we don't even have the technology to intercept them. After that terrorist attack on October, I forget the date, this recent terrorist attack in Moscow, the Russians launched hypersonic missiles on Kiev from a city, and I think they were launching them from Crimea. It was over 500 kilometers away. Guys, those missiles got there so fast. These are Russian Zircon hypersonic missiles. They have a whole bunch of missiles. Some are subsonic, some are hypersonic. Hypersonic ones are the crazy advanced ones we don't even have the capability to defend against. I mean, not only do we not have the capability to defend against them, those missiles traveled so fast, they got to Kiev in 3 minutes that the air raid sirens didn't have time to turn on. And I think they were targeting the headquarters of Ukrainian military intelligence. Yeah. It was a kind of a revenge attack from Moscow, from Russia's perspective, for that terrorist attack which Moscow, Putin and Russia, the Russian government, have pinned on Ukraine. I'm neutral on that. I don't quite know what to make of it, but yeah, they might use the same kinds of missiles to take out, Ukrainian, the F-16s that NATO gives to Ukraine, that are, some of which I believe will probably be stationed in neighboring NATO countries. Yeah, and then that will trigger NATO's Article 5, which says, if one member comes under attack, it's an attack on all, so that pulls in all of NATO, and then it's game on. And then I think that's... And then again, for technical reasons, I can't say what I think about, if this is going to happen or not, but I mean, the core takeaway here is, that Russian military transport aircraft, I think the symbolism was probably dual symbolism, and it was referring to not only the deployment of Russian tactical nuclear weapons, but which obviously did enormous damage. I don't know if that 537 figure. I think, put it this way, I think a tactical nuclear weapon would kill a lot more people than that. There have just been missile strikes using hypersonic missiles which have killed that many people. I think it was just saying a lot of German soldiers died. But then I think it was the dual symbolism of the Ilyushin Russian transport plane going like that. It represented both a bombing run and dropping off troops. And a tactical nuke doing terrible damage and scaring the crap out of everyone, because it means nuclear war. And now in the dream we were in nuclear war. The troop equivalent of that is huge numbers of Russian troops on the ground and massive deployments of Russian troops and them doing devastating damage. And I think that's why that was the dual symbolism of, I don't think those aircraft are designed to carry nuclear weapons, and it doesn't really make sense that they would be doing a bombing run like that with tactical nukes. So I think it was representing, massive numbers of Russian troops on the ground being deployed and having a devastating effect, similar or analogous to the use of, large tactical nukes. So Russian tactical nukes used against NATO troops, specifically German troops, is what I was shown. And also, a spirit of gosh, it was horrible. It was nasty, the symbolism of mass psychopathy among Russian troops. And in the dream, this other dream I had, the two components were just Dutch troops getting absolutely slaughtered. They were getting crushed. It was like they were just ants beneath a steamroller, and it was just merciless and brutal. It was just savage, and I could feel in that dream that my feelings were starting to change. I was no longer starting to feel neutral. I was starting to feel just blood rage, fury towards the Russians for what they were doing to Europe and Europeans. I'm not saying I'm happy about what they'll do to the Anglo-Zionist empire in those countries, but we kind of deserve to have our asses kicked, to be honest. I mean, really, there's so much arrogance, and we're really like Babylon. But Europe's not like that, and I feel differently about Europe, because poor frickin' Europeans, we don't have any choice. We're being dragged into this by these arrogant, less mature, negative elites in the Anglo-Saxon world and in Israel. I mean, London, Tel Aviv, and Washington, D.C. are pulling us into this. Tel Aviv, number 1, London, number 2, Washington, number 3, but Israel's the worst. UK is second worst. I think US is the least bad of those three groups. But and the US wanting to maintain their position as the hegemon, I think, I think they, putting dreams aside, I think they are going to drag all of Europe and Western Europe into World War III against their will, and they don't want it. But they're vassal states of the US. The US is still an empire, so they don't get a choice. Just as a reminder, I mean, Germany and Japan have been under. I mean, Putin said it. I'm neutral on Putin for now, but it's true. I mean, those countries have been occupied for 80 years. Germany and Japan, after their defeat in World War II. The US military still has bases on Honshu. I didn't realize that until recently. I read it in a book. They have military bases on the main island of Japan. They're a colony. They're not independent in their foreign policy at all. They're completely, and same with Germany. There's still tons of military bases in Germany. They've been under US military occupation for 80 years. They don't have independent foreign policy at all. Not at all. I mean, the US has military bases all around the world, but they have quite a few in Germany and Japan, and Germany and Japan will have no say if we move into World War III and what their military does. They'll just be given orders by the US. So it's the tragedy that, yeah, I don't feel like Europeans in Europe deserves this, but that they're not going to get a choice. They're going to be pulled into it by Anglo-Zionist Anglo-Zionist narcissism and arrogance and pride and hubris. And yeah, putting dreams aside, those 6 countries, US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Israel, it's pretty, just like, it's pretty clear that their karma's coming, and it's going to be brutal. And that's why I'm not planning to hang around here for too long. I'm not gonna. The economy here is tanking. It's just, you can see it's all slowly falling apart. It's a beautiful country, good to travel in, but the near future is not looking good. So maybe come see it before the war comes here, because again, putting aside any prophetic dreams, it's pretty clear that the wages of sin are well overdue for the Anglo-Zionist empire. All right, thanks guys.